Imagine staring at your 1-year-old, 100-pound Cane Corso.
Oh, boy.
Right. You're looking down at his food bowl, scooping out kibble, and suddenly realizing that everything printed on the back of that wildly expensive bag of dog food is basically a nutritional shot in the dark.
Yeah, it really is.
You have absolutely no idea if you are feeding him too much, too little, or exactly the right amount. I mean, nobody gave you a specific number. You're completely flying blind. So welcome to the deep dive.
It's a universally terrifying moment for any dog owner, but especially when you're dealing with a giant breed.
Oh, absolutely.
You want certainty. You want a manual with hard numbers because you are responsible for this massive, powerful creature's well-being. But biology simply doesn't offer the rigid mathematical certainty that we constantly crave.
And that is exactly what we're tackling today. We are taking a deep dive into a highly practical yet wildly misunderstood reality managing the health and nutrition of large breed dogs.
Huge topic.
It is, and our mission for you today is simple. We are going to cut through the deafening marketing noise and the absolute overwhelm of pet nutrition. We're extracting the specific, actionable insights you need to confidently manage a large breed dog's health over its entire lifetime.
Because the baseline truth is that nutrition is not a one-size-fits-all equation. It's a dynamic, constantly evolving process. It shifts dramatically based on the individual dog standing right in front of you.
Okay, let's unpack this, because if we start with that relatable frustration of staring at the dog food bag, the immediate impulse is to just trust the manufacturer's chart, right?
Right.
It says, for a 100-pound dog, feed X cups. Why can't we just follow the instructions on the box?
Because that chart does not know your dog. We have to completely throw away the idea of a universal number. Those feeding guidelines on the packaging are nothing more than loose starting points.
Just starting points.
Exactly. They cannot account for your specific dog's unique metabolic rate. They don't know if your dog sleeps on the couch 12 hours a day or, runs 3 miles with you every single morning.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And they can't factor in their exact life stage, their genetics, or even the climate they live in.
It sounds a lot like relying on a clothing tag that just says one size fits all. I mean, trying to use a dog food bag's generic chart to perfectly feed your specific dog is like trying to buy a perfectly tailored suit based on a one-size-fits-all t-shirt tag.
That's a great way to put it.
It might cover the absolute bare basics, but the fit is going to be terrible.
Ooh.
But if we're throwing out the measuring cup chart, what is the actual metric? How do you solve the daily problem of knowing how much to put in the bowl?
You have to switch your focus from reading the bag to reading the dog.
Okay.
And you do this through a hands-on body condition check. It's a physical assessment you do right in your living room. When the dog is standing naturally, you should be able to run your hands flat along their sides and feel their ribs fairly easily under a thin layer of fat.
Fairly easily. Okay.
Right. The ribs shouldn't be visibly sticking out because that means the dog is underweight, but you shouldn't have to press your fingers in hard to find them either.
Can you give me a tactile comparison? What should that actually feel like to a normal person?
Absolutely. So hold your hand out flat, palm down.
Okay, doing it.
Use your other hand to feel the back of your hand right over the knuckles. You can feel the bones easily under the skin, right?
Yeah.
That is what your dog's ribs should feel like. Now turn your hand over and feel the fleshy part of your palm just below your thumb.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's really different.
Right. If your dog's ribs feel like that, buried under a thick pad of tissue, they're overweight. Furthermore, if you look down from above, you want to see a visible waist tapering inward right behind the rib cage.
Like an hourglass shape.
Exactly. And from a side profile, the abdomen should tuck up nicely toward the hind legs, rather than, hanging down level with the chest.
Wait, I have to challenge that a bit. For a normal owner, is it genuinely possible to tell the difference between heavy muscle and hidden fat just by touch? Or are we all just guessing?
It's a fair question.
Especially if the breed like the Cane Corso. I mean, they literally look like canine bodybuilders. If I feel a thick layer on a Mastiff, my brain is just going to say, wow, look at all that muscle.
It does take a little practice, but it is definitely not a guess. And you've hit on a very specific danger for heavily muscled breeds. Owners look at a Cane Corso that is carrying 10 or 15 pounds of excess fat, and they completely brush it off.
Yeah, they just think it's bulk.
Exactly. They assume that extra bulk is just the dog being big-boned or heavily muzzled. But fat feels fundamentally different than muscle. It's softer, it moves differently under the skin. If you cannot easily feel those ribs using the back of the hand test we just talked about, there is a layer of fat masking the dog's true skeletal frame.
But, like, why are we obsessing over a few extra pounds on a dog that is already massive? If a dog is supposed to be 110 pounds, is 120 really a crisis?
It is a slow motion crisis, yes.
Mm.
We have to think about the mechanical stress. A large breed dog is already putting a massive continuous load through its joints, its hips, its elbows, its spine with every single step.
Right.
Extra body fat doesn't just sit there. It adds direct gravitational and mechanical stress to those joints. Imagine forcing your dog to carry a 10-pound bowling ball in a backpack every single minute of the day.
Oh, that sounds awful.
It is. It rapidly accelerates the physical wear and tear on a skeletal system that is already working overtime.
So it's just pure physics grinding down the cartilage over time.
It is physics, but it's also biochemistry.
What do you mean?
Well, fat isn't just inert blubber. Adipose tissue fat is biologically active. It secretes inflammatory hormones throughout the entire body.
Wait, really?
Yes. So not only is the excess weight physically crushing the joint, but the fat tissue itself is promoting systemic inflammation that degrades the joint tissue even faster. The veterinary consensus is incredibly clear on this. Keeping a dog physically lean is arguably more impactful for their long-term joint health than giving them any expensive joint supplement on the market.
I am stuck on the idea that keeping them lean beats a joint supplement. People spend hundreds of dollars on glucosamine and chondroitin chews every single month thinking it's a magic shield. Are you saying they'd get vastly better results just by feeding the dog a little less?
In many cases, yes. You cannot supplement your way out of the mechanical and inflammatory damage caused by obesity. A lean body condition is the ultimate foundation of joint health.
That is a massive paradigm shift. But if we want them to reach that lean, healthy adulthood, we have to survive puppyhood. And that seems to be where some of the biggest, most well-intentioned nutritional mistakes are actually made.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Large breed puppy nutrition is a highly specific, very delicate science. The core objective, the golden rule, really, is that a large breed puppy needs to grow steadily. They should never grow as fast as they are biologically capable of growing.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Diets that are specifically formulated for large breed puppies are designed to carefully control the calcium and phosphorus ratios, and they purposely moderate the calorie density so the dog doesn't just skyrocket in size. This raises an important question, though, regarding how our instincts to help our pets can actually harm them.
Yeah, because we are constantly taught that calcium builds strong bones in growing human kids. Drink your milk, right? Isn't it incredibly counterintuitive for an owner to hear that giving a rapidly growing, clumsy, 100-pound puppy extra calcium is actually a massive mistake?
It is deeply counterintuitive, but the biological mechanism of growth in giant dogs is totally different. During their rapid growth window, excess calcium is directly linked to severe developmental orthopedic diseases.
How does that actually work? Like, what is the calcium doing to the skeleton?
Think of a puppy's growing bones, like a construction site. The body first lays down a softer cartilage scaffolding, and then it slowly replaces that scaffolding with hard bone.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
This needs to happen at a very specific, genetically timed pace. If you flood the dog's system with excess calcium, it forces that scaffolding to calcify and harden far too quickly.
Oh, no.
Yeah, the bone hardens before it has properly shaped itself to fit into the joint socket. You get misaligned joints, malformed cartilage, and painful conditions that often require surgery later on.
So by trying to build stronger bones, you're actually building deformed bones.
Exactly. This is why adding over-the-counter calcium supplements to an already complete commercial large breed puppy diet is incredibly dangerous.
People do that all the time, though.
They do, with the best intentions. But a properly formulated puppy kibble already has the exact mathematical ratio of calcium to phosphorus required for safe growth. By adding an extra scoop of bone meal or a calcium pill, you are obliterating that delicate balance and potentially causing lifelong, irreversible joint malformation.
Wow. We just have to fight the urge to supercharge their growth. Steady and controlled is the goal. But, it's not just what nutrients the dog consumes, right? It's also the physical mechanics of how they eat their food that dictates their health.
Yes, the feeding mechanics are just as crucial. Feeding frequency has to shift significantly as the dog develops.
Oh, so?
Well, young puppies usually need 3 to 4 small meals spaced throughout the day. They have very small stomachs, but they have massive energy requirements to fuel that growth.
Sure.
But as a large breed matures into adulthood, the standard protocol shifts to 2 meals a day. And for deep-chested dogs like the Cane Corso, dividing their daily food into 2 meals is a critical medical choice. It's not just about owner convenience.
Here's where it gets really interesting. I want to picture the dog's stomach like a heavy pendulum swinging inside their chest cavity. Is bloat basically a mechanical failure, like swinging a heavy pendulum too hard when it's overloaded with food and water?
That is a brilliant way to visualize the mechanics of it. The medical term is gastric dilatation-volvulus, or GDV.
GDV, okay.
Bloat is a fatal veterinary emergency, and it happens incredibly fast. First, the stomach fills with gas or food and expands like a balloon. That's the dilatation part. Then, because deep-chested dogs have this large open physical cavity that allows for that pendulum swing you mentioned, that balloon-like stomach literally twists over on itself. That's the volvulus.
And what happens when it twists? Like, why is it so instantly fatal?
Because when it flips, it acts like twisting a candy wrapper. It completely cuts off the blood vessels entering and exiting the stomach, including the major vein returning blood to the heart.
Oh my God.
Yeah, tissue begins to die within minutes, releasing severe toxins into the bloodstream, and the dog goes into shock. While the exact definitive trigger of bloat still isn't 100% understood by veterinary science, preventing that stomach from getting overly heavy and wildly distended all at once is crucial.
Which is why you split the meals.
Exactly. That is why you split the food into 2 or more smaller meals. You are keeping the pendulum light.
So no massive single daily meals. What else can you do to stop the pendulum from swinging out of control?
You strictly avoid vigorous exercise right before and immediately after eating. You don't let the dog wolf down a large bowl of kibble and water and then immediately go sprint after a tennis ball or wrestle with another dog.
You have to let it digest.
Right. You need to give the digestive system time to settle and empty. Furthermore, many veterinarians highly recommend using slow feeder bowls.
Those are the bowls with the weird plastic mazes inside them, right? How do those actually stop bloat?
They force the dog to work around the physical obstacles to get the kibble out, piece by piece. When a massive dog eats out of a regular bowl, they often don't even chew.
Yeah, they just inhale it.
Literally, they just open their mouths and vacuum up the food. And in doing so, they gulp down huge, unnatural amounts of air. That trapped air contributes heavily to that dangerous stomach expansion. The slow feeder breaks that vacuum effect.
That makes total sense.
But there is a vital caveat that every owner must understand here. This is still an evolving area of veterinary science. Splitting meals and using slow feeders are risk reduction strategies. They are not a 100% guaranteed prevention.
Biology is messy. There are no absolute guarantees. But if we know the mechanics of feeding and we know we need a controlled diet to protect their joints, we have to face a very practical problem procuring the food.
Yes, the pet store.
Exactly. Because if we are throwing away the feeding chart on the back of the bag because it lies to us about volume, it makes you wonder what else they are getting away with on the front of the packaging when we're standing in the pet store aisle.
Walking into a pet store is essentially walking into a gauntlet of unregulated psychological marketing.
It's totally overwhelming.
It is overwhelming by design.
Yeah.
The single most important piece of advice is to completely ignore the marketing buzzwords splashed across the front of the bag. Words like premium, holistic, or ancestral have absolutely no legal or scientific definition in the pet food industry.
Real. None at all.
None. They are completely unregulated terms designed to trigger your human emotions and make you feel justified in spending $80 in a bag of kibble.
Okay, well, if we are ignoring the front of the bag, what are we actually looking for?
The only thing that truly matters is flipping the bag over, finding the fine print, and looking for a specific nutritional adequacy statement. It will explicitly confirm that the food meets an established nutritional standard for your dog's specific life stage-like growth and reproduction for puppies or adult maintenance.
Wait, I have to push back here. Humans are universally taught to obsess over the first ingredient on a label. We are told that if the first ingredient isn't real chicken or real beef, the food is just cheap garbage filler. Are you saying that pet food water weight completely invalidates that rule for our dogs?
Yes, I am. That is one of the most pervasive myths in pet nutrition. Ingredient lists on dog food are legally required to be sorted by weight before the cooking and processing phase.
What does that actually mean in practice, though?
Okay, think about a fresh chicken breast. It is incredibly heavy because it is about 70% water.
Right.
Now think about a highly processed dried ingredient like chicken meal or a grain. It has had all its moisture removed, so it weighs very little. If a manufacturer throws a whole bunch of fresh chicken into the vat, It will easily be the heaviest ingredient by weight, so it gets listed first on the label.
I see where this is going.
But once that mixture is cooked and extruded into hard, dry kibble, all that water evaporates.
So the heavy fresh chicken shrinks down to almost nothing in the final product.
Exactly. Meanwhile, those lighter, dried ingredients, which might be further down the list, actually contribute significantly more concentrated protein and nutritional content to the final kibble.
Wow.
If you just blindly look at the first ingredient, you're usually just looking at the heaviest ingredient by water volume, not the most nutritionally valuable one. The overall scientifically balanced nutritional adequacy of the final formula is what keeps your dog healthy, not the specific order of the first three ingredients.
That is fascinating. We're just being tricked by water weight. Now, speaking of calories in food, we cannot ignore the reality of treats. We use them for training, we use them for bonding, we use them just because a mastiff is looking at us with those sad, droopy eyes.
Treats are a wonderful bonding tool, but they are a massive caloric trap.
Oh, for sure.
The golden rule is that treats should make up absolutely no more than 10% of your dog's daily caloric intake. And for a highly intelligent, powerful breed like a Cane Corso, which requires constant obedience training and mental engagement to stay manageable, it is incredibly easy to blow past that 10% mark before noon just by handing out small rewards.
I love the practical solution for this from the source material. Instead of buying high-calorie treats, just use a portion of the dog's daily kibble ration as their training reward.
Yes.
Instead of dumping their full breakfast portion in a bowl, put half in the bowl and put the other half in a pouch on your belt. You use it for obedience training throughout the morning, you keep their brain engaged, you reward good behavior safely, and you completely avoid quietly doubling their daily calories.
It is an elegant, highly effective solution to a very common problem.
Now, while balancing their kibble and treats is important, we have to draw a hard line in the sand. We are moving into the danger zone.
Deal breakers.
Exactly. These are the absolute deal breakers, the foods that can severely harm or kill a dog, regardless of how perfectly balanced their main diet is.
Most owners know about chocolate. Specifically, darker chocolate is worst because it contains higher concentrations of a compound called theobromine, which dogs simply cannot metabolize.
Right.
It builds up and acts like a massive overdose of caffeine, causing tremors and heart failure. But there are several other severe toxins that owners frequently overlook.
Let's walk through them. Onions and garlic. A lot of people cook with these daily and, might drop some on the floor.
Onions and garlic, in any form, raw, cooked, or powdered, are highly toxic. They contain compounds that essentially act like tiny rust particles inside the dog's bloodstream.
Rust particles?
Yes, they attach to the dog's red blood cells and cause them to oxidize. The cells literally rust, become brittle, and break apart. Because red blood cells carry oxygen, the dog suddenly cannot deliver oxygen to his organs, leading to severe anemia and weakness.
That is terrifying. What about grapes and raisins?
Grapes and raisins are arguably the most frustrating because they cause an unpredictable, sudden cascade of kidney failure. We actually still don't fully understand the exact compound in the grape that causes it.
That's wild that we still don't know.
It really is. And then there is xylitol, an artificial sweetener found in a ton of sugar-free gums, mints, and even some brands of peanut butter.
How does xylitol work? Why is it so bad?
When a dog eats xylitol, their pancreas gets confused and thinks it's real sugar. It releases a massive surge of insulin to process it. But because there isn't any actual sugar, that insulin surge vacuums up all the normal glucose in the dog's blood, causing a life-threatening, instantaneous drop in blood sugar.
So they crash.
Hard. They can go into seizures within 30 minutes. And finally, macadamia nuts, which can cause severe toxic reactions affecting the nervous system, leading to paralysis in the hind legs.
Okay, but let's talk about the dilution effect. Is that a complete myth for dogs? Just because a Cane Corso is the weight of an adult human, does that mean their liver or kidneys simply lack the biological hardware to process these specific toxins? Like, can they handle a single grape? Because they're huge.
What's fascinating here is how the size of the animal gives owners a false sense of security. People look at a giant dog and assume the toxin will just be diluted in their massive body volume.
Right, that's the logic.
While some toxicity, like chocolate, is mathematically dose-dependent based on the dog's weight, things like grapes and raisins are entirely idiosyncratic.
Meaning they don't follow the rules of body weight at all.
Precisely.
Ah.
A very small amount of raisin can trigger a catastrophic kidney failure cascade in a giant mastiff just as easily as it can in a 10-pound terrier.
Wow.
It is not about volume. It's about the fact that they simply lack the biological hardware, the specific liver enzymes, to process these compounds safely. You cannot trust their size to protect them. All of these items must be strictly 100% off limits.
No exceptions, not just a little piece. Okay, so once we have the daily adult diet dialed in and our safety boundaries are firmly established, we have to look at the long game. Managing a large breed isn't a static formula, it's a lifelong adjustment.
Right. And one of the most vastly overlooked aspects of that long game is basic hydration.
Hydration.
Yes. For a massive, highly muscular breed, adequate, constant water intake is vital. It regulates their body temperature. Remember, muscle generates heat. A heavily muscled dog will overheat much faster than a lean, slight dog.
That makes sense.
Water also lubricates those highly stressed joints we talked about earlier and keeps the digestive tract moving. You always want to monitor for sudden changes in their drinking habits, as a sudden spike in thirst is often the very first indicator of an underlying metabolic issue, like kidney disease or diabetes.
What about supplements for the long game? Once the dog hits 4 or 5 years old, should we start adding things to the bowl, like omega-3s or whatever?
The clinical guidance is clear. Always discuss it with a vet first. If you are feeding a high-quality, scientifically balanced diet, it already has everything the dog needs. Unnecessary supplementation isn't automatically harmless.
You can mess up the balance.
Exactly. You might accidentally unbalance their core nutrition by adding competing minerals.
And this all really comes to a head when the dog enters its senior years, right? Their bodies change again.
Big time. As activity levels naturally decrease with age, their metabolic rate slows down significantly. A senior large breed dog needs far fewer calories to maintain its lean body mass than it did in its prime.
Which is hard for owners to adjust to.
It is. But if you keep feeding a 9-year-old dog the same portion they ate at 3 years old, they will rapidly become obese, which puts crushing pressure on their aging joints.
So what does this all mean? If I'm taking a step back, it sounds like feeding a Cane Corso is essentially identical to managing a financial budget over your lifetime. You simply can't spend or eat the same way in your quiet, slow-paced retirement as you did during your highly active, constantly moving 20s.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, that is the perfect analogy. The core message is that nutrition is never set it once and forget it.
Yeah, right.
The high-calorie feeding plan that brilliantly supports the growth of a 6-month-old puppy will cause an active 2-year-old adult to become malnourished. And that same adult maintenance plan will cause a 9-year-old senior dog to become dangerously obese. They require 3 genuinely different targeted feeding strategies based on continuous physical observation.
It really emphasizes that doing the boring daily work, measuring the kibble, feeling the ribs, adjusting the portions based on how they look, isn't glamorous.
No, it's not.
There's no fancy marketing term for it. But continuously reassessing their body condition and adapting to their life stages is the absolute quietest, most powerful way an owner can protect their dog's long-term health. And, if you are ever in doubt, direct, hands-on veterinary evaluation will always beat internet guesswork.
Precisely. The biological data is clear,
Right.
but the application requires your active daily participation.
We've covered a massive amount of ground today. We walked through the physical mechanics of joint degradation, the terrifying biology of bloat, and the hidden mechanisms of toxicity. But I want to leave you with one final thought to ponder.
Okay.
We focus so heavily on the physical impact of a heavy, unbalanced diet, the literal wear and tear on the hips, the risk to the organs, the mechanical strain. But consider the psychological impact for a moment. If a senior dog begins slowing down, sleeping all day, and acting lethargic, how often do we just chalk that up to old age?
Yeah, all the time.
Right. When in reality, an outdated, calorically dense, heavy diet might be actively draining their energy, making them feel sluggish, bloated, and miserable. How much of your dog's daily mood, their playfulness, and their personality is actually dictated by the invisible weight of what is sitting in their stomach? Something to think about the next time you pick up the scoop. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.